Well, everyone, today it's time to talk about the premier resident of the blockchain hills. It is the CEO of Square Enix, who managed to kick this year off with an absolutely, just a banging statement. Now, I love it whenever companies do letters, letters from the boss, things like that, kind of outlining things. It's a great way to, help out the team. And there's there's a lot of bad things about Jeff Bezos, but his annual letters to the investors, very interesting at the very least. So it's all we can learn. I love these sorts of things, but the contents of the letters are pretty damn important. And in this particular case, it's very clear that this is a New Year's letter from a business leader. A letter from a business leader that is very much aimed at the people who will be reading letters from a business leader. So I'm sure a few entrepreneurs in Japan might be interested in this, but most importantly, members of staff and investors. And a lot of the time, when we see these things, like, oh, wow, this leader is showing a really interesting way of thinking about their business. This is a management philosophy that's going to make for a happy team and a lot of success. And now, with NFTs, with some of the crypto stuff going on, it is unfortunately an opportunity for a lot of these leaders to show that they are quite out of touch with the consumers.
Yeah, it's very much, I find that a lot of these letters to investors, and even when you hear shareholder talks and stuff in conference calls for, annual or earning releases, you always follow the same thing where it's, here's a Lego to step on. Here's something to shoot yourself with in front of all of your either consumers or investors, depending on which way you actually spin it. And watching all of this New Year stuff and NFT stuff out of Japan has been something.
Yeah.
I'll say that at least.
I can't wait until it turns out that Final Fantasy 23 is a crypto-driven ancestor simulation that finally opens the box that can never be closed again.
Fantastic.
Maybe that's the direction we're going in, everyone. Yep. But to go through then some of these interesting things from Yosuke Matsuda.
Yep.
I think I'm getting the man's name right. Well, yep, let's get into it. He's talking about NFTs, blockchain, metaverse, AI, everything, every buzzword.
It's what gamers love to hear.
Yep. Now, I'm a big fan of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but that said, well, yeah, okay, yeah. I think we'll discuss where the baby in the bathwater is, I think, as we do this. So, another term that gained quick currency in 2021 was NFT, or non-fungible token. The advent of NFTs using blockchain technology significantly increased the liquidity of digital goods, enabling the trading of a variety of such goods at high prices and sparking conversations the world over. Yes, that's the thing, though. What are these things? Some of them, like, say, the apes, ape yacht, whatever, that's the sort of thing. For a lot of people, that's actually it's a store of value, perhaps. Perhaps it's also an investment item, because that's something that, because of the scarcity, speculative, right? Yeah. So it can form part of a speculative bubble. But there's something else that a lot of people, a lot of us who sort of live in normal person land, we look at the other people and think, holy shit, what are they doing? That is the art market. That is the, elements of the luxury car market when it goes far beyond the cost of manufacturing, right? A lot of those things. That's actually a lot of what's going on here. Now, the likes of how we perceive the value of a Rolex, or maybe for something slightly different, how a portfolio of fine art can be used as a tax tool, can be used as a part of a speculative bubble, all of these things. Why do these happen? They happen because of humans. They happen because of people being generally trying to be rational actors, using what they can around them. I think what we're really seeing here that's not really discussed enough is that this is just normal human behavior in society, and in a pretty stratified society where people have access to vastly different quantities of wealth. It's just that being applied to a new instrument, to a new thing. And I think a lot of us kind of understand this, and then we see people like, say, Crypto Island, or whatever the hell it's called. Cryptoland, that's it. And you see it and you're like, that's really lame. Do you not know what you're really dealing with? It's like the NFT people who don't understand how HTTP works. I mean, I've never screenshotted OpenSea.
You wouldn't be a right clicker now, would you?
I actually, yeah. And an even funny thing, and this has nothing to do with NFTs, but it's similarly petty and stupid. There was somebody who used an image, right? It was an image of J.R.R. Tolkien. And the Tolkien Institute had actually, which is like basically it's a Tolkien advocacy non-charity, I think. And they were like, why did you use this image? We own this image. And then the person's like, I just found it on a website. Tolkien Institute replies back, could you send us the sites? Because it's the same shit playing out, just with a different tech stack. Right? So that's what I want people to that's what I want everyone to have in their head as we dive into this. It's not really a newfangled thing. It's just the same old shit regurgitated through new technological opportunities.
It is, the way I think about it is a new way for people to be really stupid, basically. And it's a way that especially, like, it's amped up by the fact no one seems to have a sort of understanding of it, who's also hyper engaged. Like, the people who are really, really, like, going for it either have something to gain or are on it for the kind of hype stuff. Same way people who, would claim to have a massive love for cryptocurrency and really they don't really understand it a lot well. They're there to try to get money out of it.
Yeah.
Almost like the whole speculative asset part of being the start of a pyramid scheme is a lot of how people are actually engaging with it, as opposed to any all of this waxing lyrical about, it's the future of the digital market. You're like, right now it's just a load of shit. Right now, but.
And perhaps, Mr. Matsuda has a bit of a handle on this, because he does say, I see 2021 not only as Metaverse Year 1, but also as NFTs Year 1, given that it was the year in which NFTs were met with a great deal of enthusiasm by a rapidly expanding user base. Now, this is the bit that I found very interesting. However, we do observe examples here and there of overheated trading in NFT-based digital goods with somewhat speculative overtones, regardless of the observed value of the content provided. This obviously is not an ideal situation, but I expect to see an eventual right-sizing in digital good deals as they become more commonplace among the general public, with the value of each available content corrected to their true estimated worth, and I look for them to become as familiar as dealings in physical goods. Now, there is the whole bit there of like, well, okay, but what actually is the NFT? It's like, okay, you own the token that is uniquely associated to a fucking JPEG. Sure, whatever, a bit lame. I think he has that's within the realms of reasonability, right? Because he's highlighting the current issues, and, it's all the same, sort of finance and stuff that, people can go and buy art, and it seems crazy to us. But, you sort of wind that back to how that could apply to a regular person, and, let's just say, Ubisoft Quartz takes off, and then you have a vibrant marketplace of people exchanging bandanas, while Eves just takes a little bit of a cut.
Yeah,
and that is what the gaming industry is trying. They're trying to get to the goddamn Diablo 3 auction house.
So yes, and also no, because they have it has a very, very real impact on balance and on the digital items in the game that are like, you buy that and it's only Diablo. They want what I'm going to consider probably closer to, they want a global version, or at least a publisher-owned version of the Steam marketplace. They want you to go, was it Spiral Robots? I think the game is Spiral something anyway. They want you to tab between your inventories and be able to trade them with other people and have all these digital ownership, but also they want this massively inflated value. And they want to use the whole blockchain idea as this digital ledger, as I've seen it explained, to kind of have it as the value is absolute as opposed to just made up.
Yeah, and I think what that is going to mean to you as these things come in, everyone, is think about it like this. The thing that you uniquely own is the non-fungible token that is related to the in-game item in a way that within a publisher's ecosystem, say, can never be broken.
Yeah.
So as long as that link is always there, then effectively the item and the NFT are, they're locked together. And that's the thing that you're trading, and there's a degree of scarcity with that. and ideally that item has some uniqueness, say the unique serial code. That is really what they're going for. And that is something that, like, I mean, it's interesting. I remember seeing a bunch of crypto bros a few days ago on Twitter. And I don't mean just like some random, Andes who say they're an entrepreneur in their Twitter bio. This is like people with a fair amount of followers. So proper crypto advocates, you could say. And they were talking about, what this could mean. And then people in the games industry are like, you can't just grab a model from one game and put it in another. It doesn't work like that. Which is exactly the thing that so many of them don't get. So when you were bang on the money when you said publisher ecosystem.
Yeah.
This will be here for Ubisoft.
And Square Enix,
here for Square
seemingly.
Enix, but I don't think we're going to have I don't think my cat girl's going to be wearing my fucking dude bro bandana from Ghost Recon.
No.
Probably not going to happen, everyone. But like, and the reason why I brought up the marketplace in Diablo 3, and there's a better example here, actually, sort of. It's just Steam. It's just Steam trading cards.
Yeah.
Steam trading cards may as well be, I mean, here's the thing. Does each Steam trading card have a unique ID?
No.
And its ownership gets transferred between users on a technical end? Or does it just, this is the item, remove one from him, add one to him, but, it's not the same item. See, that's kind of splitting hairs, almost on a philosophical level. And we're going to start talking about, if a Cylon dies and is resurrected, is it still really the same Cylon, or is it just a flash copy? But what they basically want is like the D3 auction house, like Steam trading cards, like CSGO knives. That's it. It's just the latest way of doing it. And talking about it in these terms is what's really going to allow you to, for investment and stuff, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it is fundamentally at its basic level just, we're going to sell you digital goods, but we're going to up their value by claiming they're unique, even though, they quite literally are because of how the tech works, but also it's all a load of shit that doesn't really matter experientially. It's just for investors and for us to go, we've implemented NFTs, please buy them.
Yeah. Basically, I guess it's like, if you have a cool thing in a game, an item, and it is something you could trade to a player, it might be special to you, but it won't be unique. With this, imagine it's the exact same thing, just that with that item, uniquely bound to that, is a token that is like cryptographically unique. Yeah. That's it. How much does that mean to you? Because I think for a lot of the crypto bros, that's just like different game. It truly is unique in mine. For a lot of people, they're like, oh, so there's like some number in a thing that I don't understand that means that this 3D model that I would have had anyway is like super mine now? What?
It's weird. It is a digital version of, I got the number 1 printed of this unique record.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what is your collectible number? Oh, mine's 24, so if it goes missing, I can find it again. I know that's like my number. You're like, okay, cool. But it's all, how would I put it? It's like, it's artificially real is how I would describe so much of it. It's just, it is unique, but it's artificially unique because it's sort of all
it's really weird. It's artificially unique in a way that literally, in terms of like base reality, physics, it is more unique.
Yeah.
But to the actual human experience of uniqueness, it means nothing.
Yeah, in the same way that this is going to sound a bit of a weird jump, but in the same way that almost that piracy is not a lost sale, or how you can just copy paste digital stuff or right click save. It's like it's that you can just copy it.
Yeah.
It's like if you could just 3D print things in real life, actual things, not you know what I mean. If you had a what's the thing called in all the sci-fi movies, replicator stuff like that. If you had those.
Yeah. Now here's where it gets interesting, and this is what really got Matsuda into a lot of
into the boiling pot.
Boiling pot. Now I think that there's something very real that he's talking about here that we truly need to engage in.
Yeah, in isolation, yes.
Yes. How many people have... I remember there was a game. It was... I forget its name. This was years ago. It was like Doom. Or not Doom, sorry. It was like Quake. It was an arena shooter. The thing was, though, ammo?
Yeah.
Cha-ching. Real money.
Oh, dear.
But when you kill people, you get money. So this finally balanced economy where, it's basically like a sort of a skill-based gambling thing.
Yeah,
And there's a lot of people who, will they play that game for fun sometimes? Yeah. where they play that game and they're really good at it in order to try to cash out. There's some people who play blackjack for fun. There's some people who are card counters. So this is when it gets into something quite interesting that I think for a lot of us would corrupt the sanctity of gaming, the sanctity of relaxation.
Yep.
Almost a separation of church and state. That we just sort of think is a good thing for a relaxing time.
Yeah, because for, in Matt's own words that we'll come to, for the majority, this is sacrilege.
Yeah.
Effectively.
And here's what's really interesting, though. You could say, in a way, it's sacrilege because people debase the value of their own time if they don't logically assign it as being work because of basically how we have been formed by the way that society and culture is set up. And that's where it gets really interesting because this essentially is trying to recruit people into digital work. Yeah. Now, why are you going to recruit them into the digital work? Well, it's so that you can have a humongous amount of digital workers. You don't need to be earning the minimum wage. They don't need to be earning the minimum wage because they don't view it as work, even though what they are doing is the equivalent of having a humongous amount of workers for the company operating the system. And that is entirely predicated on people thinking, oh, this is my free time. It doesn't have a dollar value. It's really interesting how time is money really just cuts into everything. And I think that this is some of why people find this big business bullshit to be really disgusting.
Oh, it is.
Like, it's basically, hey, do you want to turn the game you're playing into the gig economy? But, we're going to use the fact that you like video games to completely confuse you. Oh, and by the way, none of this is actually worth anything. It's just a giant cash extraction system.
Yeah, your work's not worth anything, and what we're paying you for it doesn't mean anything, except you're paying us for stuff, so we're just giving everything.
Yeah,
cool.
As always, these are basically just things that take the distribution of money in society and help to centralize it into the big corps.
Yep.
That's what's going on.
Some dystopian stuff.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. Big yes. Now then, I realize that some people who play to have fun. Ha! Imagine that.
How dare we?
Imagine that. No.
We're not Matsuda's fucking digital minds. We should be lesser people.
No, you play games so that you can make critical video essays about them in YouTube.
That's me and you, not most people.
I don't know. I mean, by what YouTube sometimes looks like when I refresh it, I'm fairly sure that's why most people watch television at this stage.
Of course, yes.
I'm pretty sure that Star Trek Discovery Season 4, it's like the only people who are watching it they're just there to make video essays about it. But I'm sort of taking the piss, but actually there's a point to that when you dive into it a little bit, isn't there?
Oh yeah, because the fabric of society is frayed and we're all monetizing our hobbies.
Yeah, so that's a thing to think about. So people who play to have fun and who currently form the majority of players.
Good.
They have voiced their reservations towards these new trends. And understandably so. Oh, look, he understands. Then he says, but... if the very next word is however, then that's the important bit. However, I believe that there will be a certain number of people whose motivation is to play to contribute, by which I mean to help make the game more exciting. And of course, the nested truth in that is be one of the lemmings within our sort of digital economy thing. Traditional gaming has offered no explicit incentive to this latter group of people, who are motivated strictly by such inconsistent personal feelings as goodwill and volunteer spirit. Now here's the thing, a lot of us look at that and we think, fucking lame. Actually though, motivation is a myth.
Yeah.
It's all, it's about what you do, it's about planning. Is goodwill and volunteer spirit? I mean, lots of people have got lots of that. Do they actually go and help people and do things? No. So, one of the points of, studying human behavior is studying incentives. And if we're going to engage in good faith with what Matsuda is saying, he's basically referring to how having some form of financial incentive or ownership incentive, some form of incentive, is obviously a pretty damn powerful thing for human behavior. Now, the bit that really worries me about this, though, is for a lot of us, for me and you as an example, what is that incentive? Well, that's intrinsic. Yeah. It's intrinsic. It's why I played Age of Empires 2 as a kid. It's because I loved history, and I absolutely loved being shit at the game and trying to be better. And one of the things we've talked about at length, of course, because we come from the MMO space, is the overjustification effect. And a lot of things we've talked about are how you can replace intrinsic with extrinsic. And a lot of those extrinsic rewards are basically just hijacking your reward psychology to get you to do the behavior. And in doing that, you replace your intrinsic enjoyment of the thing with this extrinsic reward, and that completely fucks it up. So does that basically mean that if we do this too much and basically, have half the people logged into the game basically being a fucking Uber, an Uber or a Deliveroo or something, does that actually help to destroy gaming?
Yes.
A bit? Yeah.
I mean, based on, I haven't followed it super deep, but based on what research I have read into, obviously it was like some of it was focused on children, like school behavior. But yeah, you replace intrinsic motivation with extrinsic motivation. That intrinsic motivation does go away for that specific activity because that's how we're wired. It's literally just replacing it. Like, oh yeah, well, you liked having fun playing this game? Well, now we'll pay you for it. And then you go, well, now I'm not having fun because I'm being paid. So you effectively, I mean, this is one of the ways it's said to be. I'm not sure if the research completely tracks, but you basically you justify your own behavior internally by what you do, not by what you actually feel or think, but by the reality of things. You kind of go, almost subconsciously go, oh, why did I do that? Oh, I must have done that because X. And this is, oh, well, I was doing that and I was getting paid for it. Therefore, I must have been doing it because I was being paid for it. Which means that no matter how much fun you were having playing a game, your brain basically goes, oh no, but you're being paid, so that's why you're doing it. And you have no control over that. That is literally like a completely natural human thing.
Yeah.
According to some research. I was like, well, then if you do that and start to reward people, and you see it with games that are heavy focused on extrinsic rewards anyway. You see it with the games where you're clearing a map as opposed to enjoying the story. And you end up going for like, there's arguments to be had for trophies effectiveness in terms of like getting people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't. But when you start to go, oh, well, I'll clear up these side quests for a trophy or an achievement, then, you've probably experienced it yourself. You'll end up speeding through them, not paying as much attention to them because you've kind of went, oh, well, I want the trophy, not the experience. And this just keeps happening.
Well, is that actually why, would you say, I'm not sure about this, but the way that Sony frames trophies, like, oh, you got the platinum trophy for the game versus Microsoft giving it a score and a point value. I wonder if there are psychological differences between those two things. Do people perceive a platinum trophy to be more than like 1,000 gamer score because the platinum trophy, even though, I mean, they're sort of the same thing, but there's more of an emotional richness to that, isn't there? Rather than farming up points.
Almost certainly, and I think that's why you see a lot more people focused on PlayStation's trophies now than they do Xbox Gamerscore.
Yep, and it was different in the past.
It was different in the past, and then Sony really refined what they did and started having platinums, and I think that works out really well. I think some of that's a question of design because that comes down to, like, I enjoy getting platinum trophies because they generally are designed to be a good, hey, here's everything in the game. And once you get there, like, okay, I know mentally I've ticked that off and I've experienced everything. But that does require you to not spam through it to get it. Or it does have some really bad implications like the Miles Morales Platinum where you literally have to complete New Game Plus, but you can't skip most cutscenes, so you just spend 6 hours doing shit you've already done. Ooh. But yeah, the whole point being that once you start... obviously this is a bit kind of modding. He talks about a little bit in the way of user-generated content, but in the general sense of play to earn or play to contribute, that does threaten video gaming as a whole by turning it into work.
Yeah,
and anyone who's followed the death of intrinsic motivation in video games, anyone who's followed the rise of mobile games, they'll have a feeling for that. They'll know it. But
yeah, like I think the games industry wants to say that your mum is a gamer because she plays Candy Crush. Because what does that mean? Well, look at all the great things it means that your mum is now a gamer.
Yeah,
is your mum a gamer or is your I don't mean your mum literally, but you know the way like for a lot of people, it's maybe not me and you who are playing Candy Crush. As an example. I mean, you could say those people are gamers because they play games. Yeah, sure, fair enough. But maybe this is to maybe go at like the core gamer and some of the elitism that happens. Yeah. It's because maybe a lot of one category thinks themselves as, well, we played games and we played games because we played games. We played 1.6 because we wanted to be better at 1.6. We played StarCraft 2 because we wanted to be better at StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1 or whatever. And then we see these people where it's like the game you're playing is a thinly veiled Skinner machine that is exploiting a reward psychology. I guess through that lens, And through all of this, you can sort of understand why some forms of games are not really respected by core gamers.
Yeah, I mean, you think of that, that we are not the same meme, and it's, it's you play video games to get a dopamine hit, I play video games to get lost in worlds, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
As cringe as that would be, and you would see it in r/gaming, it does have a kind of hint of truth to it.
That's it, yeah. So this user-generated content thing I think is very interesting. So he says, this fact is not unrelated to the limitations of existing UGC. UGC has been brought into being solely because of individuals' desire for self-expression and not because any explicit incentive existed to reward them for the creative efforts. Now, there's a yes and a no here, because a lot of people have made a lot of money off, say, Dota skins.
Yes.
And the same goes for Roblox, even though there's a few iffy issues there. Yeah. That's very much, was something. So he's not completely right there. But think about Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind. But then a lot of us would say, and this is the bit where I sort of think, well, I know if I was a kid and you could have told me, hey, Michael, do you want to pay £3,700 a year plus all of the other costs to go to university? Or what if you could make a Skyrim mod and you could get enough money, you can maybe sell that Skyrim mod, and then maybe the Skyrim mod does well. You can hire on people, and then suddenly Bethesda Game Studios, in a way, has 5,000 people working on Skyrim, has 10,000 people working on Skyrim, has 15,000 people working on Skyrim. And sure, they won't always be as high-quality employees as the ones that they would hire, but surely the net production of the collective means that if people like, was it the Night in Ellsware? Dream Path to Ellsware? Or Falskar? Those big mods? Well, what if it actually turns out that you have that? Or, the Dragon Isle, Morrowindy, Dragon's... whatever. No, Dragon Song's different. Whatever it is, the final DLC of Skyrim. What if it turns out that you then have distributed development teams in a sort of a decentralized format via incentivized user-generated content, and essentially it means if you're a Skyrim person, you're now benefiting from the labor, because right now it's great what we get with mods, but imagine if you had what you were getting from mods, just that there were mods where you would pay 12 quid for them and you would be happy because they're actually better than Bethesda's own. I mean, that's the crazy thing. That is like the Steelman. That's the Steelman argument for paid mods.
Yeah, that's the perfect goal.
And that's where it's interesting. And it's like, is that what Matsuda's trying to engage with here, maybe?
Almost certainly, because I imagine it was a very, kind of quick level of thinking, especially for the Japanese communities. Never really had a big sort of massive modding scene in the same way this Skyrim and Oblivion did, and Morrowind as well. But obviously, then you look at paid mods as the short-lived feature on the Steam Workshop.
Yeah.
And you go, well, that's a cute idea, but it falls under the same category of everything else we've talked about, which is people have, obviously the benefits of being paid for stuff it's there, it's obvious. You don't really need to explain it. You can then explain the extra benefits. But then you think, well, how many people got into modding because it was a truly intrinsic thing? They did it because they enjoyed it, because generally speaking, intrinsic motivation is a stronger one than intrinsic for quality and lifestyle stuff. In terms of you never really hear of someone who's incredible, great artist because they get into it explicitly for money. You usually see people like that who are, at least in common belief.
But it goes
like
in the other direction. And I always remember Mr. Scullion, my chemistry teacher at school, and he had a bit of a beef, I thought, with general practitioners, GPs, MDs. He had a bit of a beef. Because what's he interested in? He's interested in chemistry. He's interested in helping the next great chemist on their journey so that they can create some incredible science. And he was always frustrated that because we really underpay scientific researchers as compared to, say, GPs, he was kind of pissed off because it was like, well, the financial incentives of this actually mean that people, instead of really going in and kind of in a grand scale advancing chemistry and humanity, because they can get a pretty easy X amount of, not easy, from his perspective anyway, it's a financial incentives thing. Because, you could go and, especially if you do a private practice, just, ba-bam, 100 grand a year or more. I think it's quite a bit more in America. So he was always pissed off that like pure chemistry was losing students to medicine because medicine is where the money was. And you can maybe say that there's some of that going on here where, maybe the next great game designer is making Skyrim mods, in their spare time. But because that can't pay, maybe they have to do something else with their life, and then we all miss out on that. I mean, like, I know I'm sort of steel manning here.
Yeah,
and a lot of these guys are going to say that, like, some of these instruments of ownership and stuff, and just all these financial incentives could be a part of what like unlocks an economy. And it's like there's a good and a bad to that, and it's very interesting to see everyone's reaction to it. And the good and the bad in that. And I think you can clearly see that there's like grains of truth and interesting points in this statement, but it just comes across as so tone deaf to what people actually experience in the real world.
Because users are, everyone's in that. I think largely speaking, everyone can see, especially corporate driven capitalism as a corrupting force of hobbies. You see every time that, here's DLC is paid. Every time they find another way to nickel and dime you, the whole experience gets worse. It gets worse for everyone involved, largely speaking.
Yeah.
Because employees are, being destroyed at work over the head of corporate profits in games. So I think a lot of people are going, no, get your fucking grubby paws away from this, please. Mods are fine as they are. Whatever changes you're talking about to bring in money, all of the benefits are clear, but they'll take a long time to go through, and we don't know the damage that'll be done on the way.
Yeah.
We don't know what any of these game modding scenes look like whenever it's purely driven by financial incentives. And then if you're going to financially incentivize a market, then you'll want to remove things that aren't financially incentivized, or, you don't want to remove things that aren't been bought, which then means mods that aren't, allowed on a workshop, be they adult mods or be they, generally disliked for whatever reason, then they're fired out of the ecosystem and don't exist anymore. Like, well, now you've just, how much have you killed in doing this? But they're just like, let's pay for them. That's, I guess it's the steel man being strong and people not thinking of the unpriced externalities of it all. Brutal.
Yeah, and there certainly are unpriced externalities of this, which, and what does that unpriced externality basically mean in this case? Like with so many unpriced externalities, those say surrounding tobacco, surrounding sugar, and stuff, it just means the regular person is fucked over and it's the corporation who harvests the money. Yeah. Because we end up footing the bill, be it literally money or a general degradation of quality of life, so that the money can be sucked up by the big corp.
Yeah.
So, this is probably a great way to make a lot of game. I mean, a good example is, say, WoW Token in WoW. Like, great financial instrument. You can really make a lot of fantastic steelman arguments for why WoW Token exists. But ultimately, I think now that the experiment has been ran, it's almost coming in a decade now.
Yep.
Now that experiment has been ran for so much, we can really see the negative externalities of that and the impact that it has in player psychology. As an example, I give a fuck about Gil in a Square Enix game called Final Fantasy XIV because I can't buy it and it's limited, and therefore I know, a lot of value there. I can only get it when I spend time in this application in my computer.
Yeah.
Whereas I think about WoW Gold and I think, WoW Gold, that's obviously just an in-game abstraction for time.
Yeah.
Because money's also like money is what? Fuel units, energy units, effort units, whatever. Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Money is work, sort of.
But the point,
money is work, and then,
if only.
Well,
if only. But yeah, the point is that World of Warcraft Gold is now, the fastest way to earn World of Warcraft Gold for you isn't to figure out a cool way in game to play it and earn it. It is now to go to work. That's one of the things that's always
farming gold right now, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's the thing I always find really interesting, is just that idea of you've turned, to be fair, farming gold is always a bit of a job, but you've got cases where farming gold in game is it pays better than, actually working in less developed countries. And then in more developed countries, it's like, well, just go to a job. Literally just go mow someone's lawn for $20 there. You've got gold way faster that way.
And as we worked out in our gold boosting video, there are parts of the world where the inverse is there.
Yeah.
Farming gold in World of Warcraft is better than a whole bunch of jobs. And make no mistake, this is not a tangent. Whenever they put NFTs into our games, this is the psychology.
That's what happens.
They're trying to make everyone a gold booster in WoW.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? You look at the difference here between, those who play to have fun, those who play to contribute. Well, if you think about the financial incentives of these companies, which one of those will they prefer? Will they prefer the people who are playing to earn or playing to contribute, or will they prioritize the people who are playing to have fun? The answer is obvious. They'll want to prioritize the people who are playing to make their bank accounts bigger, because fun means nothing to them.
Yeah.
Obviously, to the individuals working, of course, they want people to have fun. But to the business unit as a whole, they'll want the contributors to be the first-class citizens. So then the contributors will start to have nicer things. And then obviously, the first step of designing incentives is always, here's the nice things for the people. Here's the nice things for the people who want to help. But whenever those run out, then you move to punitive measures for the people who don't want to help. You move away from this is the premium pass, it's really good. You move to, the free version is nothing in it. That's what you move to.
80-20 principle.
Yeah.
80-20 principle. Everyone should think all the time. Do an 80-20 principle analysis of fucking everything in your life. Do it. You'll learn things. But you need to be careful about how that works. Now, 80-20 principle, Pareto principle, it's also called. It's that idea that, 80% of your key outcomes tend to come from 20% of the actual work. And certainly if I look at the allocation of my own time, it's absolutely that. There have been times where it was that for the revenue generated by our channels, but thankfully, while 2021 was a disaster year, one of the main goals was actually achieved. We actually, our revenue is quite well split between all of our channels, which means that everything is happy and healthy, and we can just chill out and actually make the content that we're very excited about, because we don't have to worry about, it's only this one channel holding everything up. Now, the problem for people who play games is that if you do an 80-20 analysis of where your revenue comes from in your player base, and then you hyper optimize around the 20%,
which is already happening, by the way.
Yeah, having fun doesn't pay.
Yep.
As you said, that's happening.
Yeah, that already happens when you see design that's towards people who are willing. And obviously they've come to an understanding that they do need a healthy player base, but they don't need a massive player base. They just need a healthy one. And you see it with, how Blizzard monetize World of Warcraft. Doesn't matter what's happening to the game. Store mounts will come, bundles will come, everything will just come and monetize, because they kind of realize that, obviously they're maybe spinning it a little bit one way now, but, there is a healthy balance of how many wheels you have. So you don't need, if you have the wheels you need, you don't need anyone else. And that's all you need to keep happy. And I'm sure there's a lot of mobile games that have, triple digit users, and they likely out-earn games with 6-figure users or 7-figure users, because they've figured out how to completely cut the 80% of users they don't need to make content for or care about. And it's just, here are the 20% that are paying us, and then how to keep those is basically how many non-whales do you need to keep the whales playing the game is the question they ask.
Is this one of the ones from our man Terolf? Love Terolf.
Might be, yes.
Was it the Transformers game that actually had a skew for one of the places with oil princes anyway, so that the oil princes could put thousands of pounds into the game and then fight their digital transformer war with each other. Now to continue here, basically to give you a TLDR, nobody liked this.
No, rightly so.
Nobody liked this. This did not come across well. Kotaku also did a roundup of takes from Square Enix's Japanese fans, which of course is very important because that's their home country, and perhaps they'll have a little bit more, they'll maybe hear them a bit louder. So there was some positivity, but mixed in with, a lot of pissed off people. I'll be playing my Switch, even as a joke. This isn't funny. So that's Square. But of course, there's some other stuff coming from Japan. So Matt, give us the fill in of the info.
So we've got two other corporations who have I'm going to say stuck the nose out, because it's a dangerous situation to get involved in as far as PR is concerned. One of them did surprisingly well, and the other did fucking horribly. And I'm sure you can guess it's Konami. Konami obviously don't care about their IP at all outside of how much money they can make. They don't care about releasing games. So they just went, it's Castlevania's 35th anniversary. Should we greenlight a bunch of new game projects by respected developers? No. We'll just announce Castlevania, aptly named Memorial NFTs. So they are straight up just selling Castlevania NFTs. They're just in-game scenes. Like, yeah, buy them. They're unique.
There you go.
We've created digital scarcity. There you go. And they haven't even talked about it. Literally just, just give us money for the shit that you now own. Fuck you, basically.
Own a screenshot that we minted a token in relation to.
Yeah, and the best thing is, they're auctioning them off. Not just, buy this at a fixed price. It's, ha 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 ha. You like when Dracula says, "What is a man?" Do you want to own that? Do you want to be the only person in the world who can own that? How much are you willing to pay? Because there's a dude right behind you and he's willing to pay more. And now you've just got them benefiting off their IP in such a grotesque way that feels inhuman. But then thankfully you look over at Sega and they've been sort of hard to describe how they've been doing things, but they're relatively smart sometimes, but also most of their games are kind of shit. Which, is pretty bad for a games company. But anyway, I suppose some things are doing really, really well, especially their connection to Xbox. And they were just like, people don't like this shit. We're not going to talk about it. More literally, the CEO said, in terms of NFT, we would like to try out various experiments, and we have already started many different studies and considerations, but nothing is decided regarding P2E, which is obviously pay to earn. The fact that now already has an acronym is very fucking scary. But they have noticed, there's been announcements of this here and overseas, and users are going, no, absolutely not. We don't want this. So they said they're going to carefully assess what they're doing going forward. And interestingly, they say if NFTs and pay to earn leads towards their mission, constantly creating, forever captivating, then they'll go for it. But if it's perceived, and not if it is, but if it's perceived as simple money making, then the CEO will decide not to proceed.
Well, that's fair, because we want these companies to make money while giving us what we want in return.
Yeah.
So if he can identify that people will say, well, this is just money making for you and I'm not getting anything. Yep. And if he then as a leader is going to say, well, okay, our users don't want that, we're not going to do it. Cool. That's what I'm here. I'm down for that.
Yeah, that's the thing that I find really interesting when you think about simple money making as a term. It's like, you can make money a lot of different ways. Games companies are supposed to do things related to games. They're supposed to, I think that's the thing people are annoyed with, Konami specifically. It's like, could you please make a game? That's what you do. Can you make one? Like, pachinko machines, sell NFTs. We'll try to cash in an IP by having developers or having indie developers volunteer work for us. We'll have all that stuff going. But we're not going to make any games.
Ridiculous notion.
Obviously, it's fine. You look at Square Enix and they've got game and media and game associated stuff. Because God knows their merch division makes a ton of money off FF14 recently. And honestly, rightly so. Because those $300 watches look pretty good.
They got me, bastards.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like, they're just making money. And if it's simple money making and it works, then fine for them and fine for the investors. But fuck us, I guess. And I think the investor thing's really interesting because...
Yeah, it works.
Yep.
They went up.
Yep.
It went up 8%. Largest single day increase since August. But I mean, no shit. No shit. I don't think there's too much to get into with this. It's like, obviously.
Yeah, it's just disappointing.
Yeah.
Disappointing that negative user sentiment means nothing. When investors are like, oh, NFTs? Money.
Yeah, I mean, look, was it Peter Molyneux was selling some land in his game? Massive funding achieved. And that's a way to, it's a way to go public without having public investors, right? Yeah. It's sort of interesting. And what that shows us basically is really there's not a lot of power that you and me have. The best thing that we can do is identify these trends, tell our friends about them, understand what they really are, and, as things just get a little bit more messy, as it all just seems to be a little bit more grim and spooky, at least we'll be aware of what's going on so that we can do what we can to make our personal lives not be hijacked by various different instruments that are sucking our time and our life, and, the potential richness that we could experience into a bank account of a big corp.
Absolutely.
Knowledge is really power here, and so too is will. So watch out. They're going to use every trick in the book against you. And that's it for today, I think.
Yeah. The only last thing to say is we have some power, clearly, with Sega. So hopefully, I can't believe I'm saying this, Sega are like they're the golden example of what we should be looking at these days. That's not something I ever thought I'd say.
Yeah, well, just wait till the Yakuza decide, no, you're actually going to do NFTs.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this dive into NFTs and stuff, but also actually more the psychologies underpinning all the things that are going in the games industry.
Yeah, sweet.
There you go. Well, don't have to do another video for a month then. See you later.